I got a problem. Grown man, nigga. Play with one of them little boys, nigga. Play with your kids, you play with your nigga. You don't play with no grown man, nigga. Play with your nigga.
Shiesty is finally facing consequences that slammed his whole career into pause mode and ripped the mask off that tough guy image he pushed for years. All that back in blood energy, all those loud claims about being untouchable are now getting put under a harsh spotlight for everyone to see. The fall came fast and ugly when POOH Shiesty got caught slipping in the worst way possible. Robbed for a reported $40,000 inside a packed Miami nightclub. The real story behind what took him down is way more embarrassing than fans ever expected, and it cuts straight through the image he worked so hard to sell. This Memphis rapper built his brand on being the guy nobody could violate, the one who always stood tall. But that night, his pockets got ran right in front of hundreds of witnesses, and there was no hiding from it. Instead of taking the loss and walking away, things spiraled out of control fast. The situation escalated to the point where a security guard was shot, and that single moment triggered a serious legal case that flipped his life upside down forever. One bad decision stacked on another, and the damage became permanent. This is real street drama that's been buzzing heavy through the hip-hop world, and it shows how fast things go left when pride takes over common sense. On top of that, leaked footage and multiple circulating videos have surfaced, capturing exactly what went down that night at King of Diamonds in Miami. And the visuals make the situation even harder to deny. Ty tried hard to control the story, pushing the idea that nothing was taken from him, acting like the whole thing was fake news, but the streets already knew what time it was. People saw everything unfold in real time, and now it's time to separate facts from fiction, real talk from damage control, and break down how one of rap's hottest rising stars went from living flashy to sitting in federal prison, all over $40,000 and some tight jeans. Memorial Day weekend 2021 was the moment everything flipped for POOH Shiesty, and there was no coming back from it. Fresh off the massive success of Back in Blood, featuring Lil Durk, the Memphis rapper was performing at the King of Diamonds strip club in Miami. He was on fire. His music was everywhere. Gucci Mane had his back, and promoters were lining up to book him non-stop. But that same night turned legendary for all the wrong reasons. By the end of the night, chaos took over fast. POOH Shiesty was seen running out of the club with a gun, a security guard was shot, and the internet wasted no time clowning the situation after word spread that his pockets got ran. The image cracked instantly and people couldn't believe what they were hearing. This wasn't just some random moment either. Ty's whole persona was built around being untouchable, always ready, always protected, never slipping, and never lacking. His music pushed that image heavy, but on that Memorial Day weekend, the world saw how fast things can go left when focus slips for even a second. King of Diamonds, Miami, Florida, Memorial Day weekend 2021, one of the most famous strip clubs in America, became the scene of a moment that changed everything forever. This was the kind of place where rappers pull up to flex hard, throw money everywhere, and make sure all eyes are on them. POOH Shiesty was booked to perform, and he showed up ready to stunt heavy. We're talking stacks on stacks of cash, straight flashy behavior, and witnesses saying he had around $40,000 stuffed right in his pockets that night. But here's the first major mistake nobody can ignore. POOH Shiesty was rocking super tight jeans, skinny tight to the point where nothing was hidden. The cash was bulging out his pockets so bad that you could literally see the outline of every stack. In the leaked footage, the money is clearly sticking out, barely contained, looking like it could drop out at any second. In the streets, everybody knows that walking through a packed club with that kind of money showing is basically inviting problems. But POOH Shiesty was locked into performance mode, feeling himself, throwing money, feeding off the crowd, and moving like he was untouchable. He likely thought nobody would dare test him in public like that. After all, this is POOH Shiesty we're talking about. The same rapper known for tough talk, dangerous lyrics, and non-stop energy about being ready for anything. The performance was lit, the crowd was losing it, and the vibe felt unstoppable for the moment. Everything looked smooth on the surface, but behind the scenes, the setup was already in motion. What happened next pushed this situation way past a normal club appearance and straight into a life-altering moment. Multiple people in the crowd peeped how much cash POOH Shiesty had on him and how poorly it was secured in those tight jeans. The real shocker that had everybody whispering is that someone inside that club was clearly watching him closely, waiting patiently for the perfect moment to make a move. And this is exactly where the entire night takes a sharp left turn. Around 4 a.m., Ty's performance was winding down, and he started pushing through the crowd to exit the club. The place was wall-to-wall packed, bodies everywhere, fans pressing in for photos, autographs, and quick moments. The energy was chaotic, loud, and unpredictable, the kind of scene where one small move can change everything fast. Then it happened. Someone in the crowd bumped straight into POOH Shiesty. Whether it was an accident or something planned is still debated, but what happened next is crystal clear. The stacks of cash that were barely holding on inside those tight jeans came flying out instantly. Hundreds hit the floor, money scattering right in the middle of the club like a movie scene. The crowd went completely wild. People dove on that money with zero hesitation, hands reaching everywhere, grabbing bills off the floor, stuffing cash into pockets, waistbands, shoes, wherever it could fit. In seconds, that $40,000 disappeared, split up between dozens of people before anyone could even react properly. Just like that, the damage was done, and there was no undoing what had already happened. Leaked footage from multiple angles shows exactly how everything unfolded, frame by frame, with nowhere to hide. You can see POOH Shiesty's reaction in real time. First the confusion, then the sudden realization, and then straight anger taking over. 1 minute he's on stage performing, feeding off the crowd, and the next, he's watching people scatter off with his money right in front of him. Let that really sink in. Here's the part that made the situation explode even worse. POOH Shiesty's entire image was built on being untouchable, on being the guy nobody plays with. He's the same rapper who talks tough in his music, pushing the idea that any disrespect gets handled immediately. So when this happened, when he got robbed publicly in front of hundreds of people, taking the loss quietly was never going to be an option in his mind. Walking away would have crushed his credibility, his street reputation, and the image he worked hard to build. For anyone who doesn't know what crashing out means, it's when someone makes a reckless, self-destructive move because emotions take over, pride gets bruised, and they feel pressure to prove something fast. And that's exactly where POOH's head went next. According to police reports and witness statements, POOH Shiesty tried to head back toward the stage to get a better look at who grabbed his money. He was scanning the crowd, moving frantically, trying to spot faces, but it was already too late. The cash was gone, and the people who took it had already blended back into the crowd or slipped out of the club without a trace. A security guard quickly noticed that POOH Shiesty had a gun tucked in his waistband, and that's when alarms really started going off. Real talk, the guard warned him straight up not to pull it out and told him to just leave the club, take the loss, and keep it moving because it wasn't worth throwing his whole life away over one moment. But POOH Shiesty was deep in his feelings at that point. He was embarrassed, heated, and feeling seriously violated after what just happened. His pride was bruised, and his ego wouldn't let him walk away quietly while security was escorting him out of the building. That's when things crossed a dangerous line. Leaked footage shows POOH Shiesty walking toward the exit with a black ski mask pulled over his face, a weapon clearly visible in his hand. He wasn't trying to be low-key at all, holding it near his waist as he moved fast toward the door. You can see the anger in his body language, the tension in his movements, like he's locked in and seeing red. Just as he passes by the camera, it happens. Boom! One gunshot rings out loud and clear. Instant chaos breaks loose inside the club. People start screaming, running, pushing past each other, all trying to escape at once. The energy flips from party mode to pure panic in seconds. In the middle of all that confusion, a security guard goes down, hit in the ankle and unable to move. According to the security guard's statement, he later said he saw POOH Shiesty cocking the gun and aiming it toward his chest, and that claim pushed this situation into an entirely different category fast. The guard reacted fast, diving out of the way to avoid getting hit somewhere fatal, which is why the bullet only struck his ankle. Some reports say that move saved his life. Other accounts suggest the gun may have gone off accidentally in the chaos, that POOH Shiesty wasn't aiming to hit anyone directly, and everything spiraled out of control in seconds. Either way, the outcome stayed the same. A security guard was shot, and POOH Shiesty was at the center of it all. After the shot rang out, things moved quick. POOH Shiesty allegedly handed the gun off to someone in his circle, and his whole crew exited fast before police could lock the place down. Just like that, they disappeared into the night, leaving behind a wounded guard and a full-blown crime scene. But here's the real reality check. You can't fire a weapon inside a packed nightclub and expect it to just disappear. King of Diamonds is covered in security cameras, top to bottom. Hundreds of people were inside, and multiple phones were recording from different angles. The evidence stacked up heavy and fast. Still, POOH Shiesty tried to spin the story. He jumped on Instagram calling the situation false allegations, saying, "Nothing was taken from me." trying to protect that untouchable image he built his name on. But the footage told a completely different story. People could clearly see money falling out of his pockets and the crowd grabbing it up in real time. In street culture, when someone really gets robbed, the people responsible usually brag online. This time, the videos did all the talking and they spoke louder than any post ever could. Usually when someone really gets robbed, the internet hears about it fast. People post photos with chains they snatched or stacks they took, loud and proud for clout. But in this situation, nobody stepped up to claim credit for robbing Ty, and that's because this wasn't a traditional setup robbery at all. What really happened was more of an opportunistic grab. The money spilled out in the chaos, and people reacted on instinct. Still, the damage was already done, and perception became reality fast. To the public, it looked like POOH Shiesty got robbed, then crashed out, and ended up shooting a security guard. And that's a terrible look for someone whose whole image was built on being untouchable. On June 8, 2021, about a week after the incident, POOH Shiesty turned himself into authorities and was officially charged with aggravated battery with a firearm. That's not a light charge at all. We're talking serious felony territory with the possibility of real prison time attached. The judge set his bond at $10,000, money POOH could easily cover without breaking a sweat. But here's where things got way more complicated. At the time, he was already out on bond for another separate shooting case in Bay Harbor Islands, Florida. That earlier case involved an alleged deal that went wrong, leading to 2 people being shot. Now POOH Shiesty was facing 2 active shooting cases at once, and the judge from the first case had the authority to revoke his bond completely and keep him locked up. The pressure was closing in fast. Let's really break down what POOH Shiesty was facing legally, because this is where things turn deadly serious fast. Florida has a strict rule known as the 10 to 20 to life law, and it does not play around when firearms are involved. Under this law, simply pulling out a gun during a crime triggers an automatic 10-year minimum sentence. If that gun gets fired, the time jumps straight to 20 years minimum. And if someone is seriously injured or worse, it can climb all the way to 25 years to life. Since POOH Shiesty fired the weapon and a security guard was hit, prosecutors were looking at a mandatory 20-year minimum sentence if he was convicted. Let that sink in. 2 full decades behind bars over a moment that spiraled out of control and money that slipped from his tight jeans. To fight the case, POOH Shiesty hired Bradford Cohen, a high-profile celebrity attorney with a stacked resume. This is the same lawyer who's represented major names like YNW Melly and DMX, and even played a role in securing high-profile pardons for Kodak Black and Lil Wayne. If anyone had the experience to step into a courtroom swinging, it was him. But here's the hard truth. Even the sharpest lawyer can't erase overwhelming evidence. Prosecutors had security footage, eyewitness accounts, and physical proof tying everything together. They had video of POOH Shiesty with the gun, witnesses who said they saw the shot fired, and a wounded security guard ready to testify. The case was locked in tight, and on top of all that, this wasn't even his only legal problem waiting in the shadows. Remember that Bay Harbor Islands shooting case? Yeah, that situation never went away, and it was still hanging over POOH Shiesty's head heavy. That case involved 2 people getting shot during an alleged deal that went completely sideways. He was already staring down serious time for that situation, and now this Miami nightclub case landed right on top of it, stacking pressure fast. Eventually, POOH Shiesty made a move to stop the bleeding. In April 2022, he accepted a plea deal and pleaded guilty to conspiracy to possess a firearm in furtherance of violent and drug trafficking crimes. That plea sealed his fate. He was sentenced to 63 months in federal prison. That's 5 years and 3 months locked away. On top of that, he was ordered to pay restitution connected to the Bay Harbor Islands shooting victims, adding more weight to the consequences. What makes this hit harder is the timing. POOH Shiesty was at the absolute peak of his career when all of this went down. Back in Blood was dominating hip-hop, ringing off everywhere. He had just signed with Gucci Mane's 1017 Records. Shows were lined up nationwide, and the momentum was unstoppable. But one night, one moment of embarrassment in a crowded club, and everything came crashing down. Instead of controlling his emotions, the situation spiraled, and the price ended up being years of his life. Now here's where the story gets even crazier. After serving his sentence, POOH Shiesty was released from federal prison in 2025. The streets were watching closely, waiting to hear what he'd say about Miami, the incident, and everything tied to that night. He didn't stay quiet either. POOH Shiesty previewed a new song on his Instagram story where he addressed the situation head-on, and what he said next had people talking heavy. POOH Shiesty completely flipped the script in his new song. In the preview, he raps that the money just fell out of his pants and that nobody actually took it from him. He's trying to rewrite history, claiming it wasn't a robbery, just a mishap with some loose cash. But the streets aren't buying it. People are talking, and the footage speaks louder than any lyrics. We all saw the videos, fam. We saw the crowd diving on that money, snatching bills left and right, running off with stacks in every direction. But POOH Shiesty is sticking to his story, holding tight to that tough guy image even after all the chaos and consequences. In the song, you can hear him rapping about how everything was blown out of proportion, how people lied about what really went down, and how he supposedly never got robbed or violated. He's clearly trying to reclaim his narrative and convince fans that he's still the untouchable guy from Back in Blood. But let's be real, the damage is done. POOH Shiesty lost 5 years of his career, 5 years of his life, and 5 years of his prime as an artist, all because he couldn't just take an L and move on. His ego wouldn't let him walk away from $40,000 that spilled out of his tight jeans. At the end of the day, this situation isn't just about one embarrassing night in a Miami nightclub. It's about ego, the pressure to maintain a tough guy image, and the harsh consequences of letting emotions take control. It's about what happens when keeping it real goes wrong. The real question now is, what lesson can we all take from POOH Shiesty's story? The lesson here is real, fam. Sometimes you have to be willing to take an L. Sometimes the hardest move is letting your ego take a hit. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away instead of escalating a situation. POOH Shiesty is back home now, trying to rebuild his career and reclaim his narrative. He's dropping music claiming he never actually got robbed, that the money just fell out of his pants. But let's keep it 100. The internet never forgets. The videos are still circulating, police reports are still public, and no matter how much he tries to spin the story, the truth doesn't change. For anyone who understands the culture, this is a clear reminder. The tough guy image that works in the streets doesn't always translate to the real world. When you're a rapper making real money and building a serious career, you've got to move differently. You can't just crash out every time someone disrespects you or takes a shot at your money. The stakes are too high and the consequences can last for years. So we want to hear from you. What's your take on POOH Shiesty's situation? Do you think he really got robbed? Or do you buy his story that the money just fell out? More importantly, do you think he actually learned his lesson? Or is he about to keep running the same lifestyle that got him locked up? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this story is far from over and we're watching every move of his comeback closely. And if you're serious about keeping up with the realest stories from the streets, make sure you subscribe to Rap Uncovered and turn on notifications. We're dropping heat every single day, and tomorrow's upload is going to be even crazier, even deeper, and absolutely unmissable. Smash that like button, share this with your homeboys, and stay locked in. We'll catch you in the next one right here at Rap Uncovered, where the truth of the streets lives.